Okay, we're gonna get back to doing some glass. I just did a little flake off camera, and I managed to take a flake from the tip or near the tip, push downward, and I took off that side there. So we'll try again. This time I'm going to try some Napa Obsidian. Right, I hope I got that right. See how this works. It's a fairly rare type of obsidian from California. So I guess it's supposed to be jet black, and this is what Stocktons are actually made out of, not the stuff that I was using. I was using stuff from Glass Buttes, I believe. Alright, let's see. Very, very nice. It's almost too nice. But I don't want to think about how nice this material is. I won't be able to nap it. I'll probably be doing lots of pressure flaking. Yeah, this stuff is very nice. Just gotta watch how I'm hitting it. Be very careful. So I can get used to it without abusing it too much. There's some times where I just go to town and see how strong the material is and break a few pieces. I do the same thing with bow wood. Before I make a bow out of a certain type of wood, I abuse it and break it first, see what my limits are. Bend it, see how much set it takes before I actually make a bow out of it. So with the new batch of rock, I usually abuse it and see what it can take. But this stuff, I'm going to take it easy. Seems to be very opaque or not see-through. Not even on the edges. I don't know. Can't tell in this lighting. So I don't know what I'm going to make out of it yet. Everyone wants to see long, thin, narrow points, so maybe I'll make a long, thin, narrow point. very, very nice. It feels a little bit stronger than mahogany obsidian, but it almost feels like plastic, similar to the mahogany obsidian consistency. I could try swiping these edges. Yeah, okay, that works. Just got a shower of flakes up in my face, but it works. A lot of obsidians will snap when you try to do this on the base. Mahogany obsidian does it also. So I'll try to take some thinning flakes from the side down toward the base, trying not to overshoot. Okay, yeah, it does have a grayish looking translucency. Pretty cool. So what do I talk about tonight? I really don't feel too much like talking. To the relief of some of you. If you're just now tuning in, sometimes I talk during my videos, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I mix it up and have long periods of time when I don't talk, and then all of a sudden I'll say something. Just in case you start falling asleep. Yes, yes, very nice. Okay. So yeah, as far as obsidians go, this is excellent. I don't know if it's all like this. I'm just going to check this other piece. It seems like it is. Let's just see. Oh yes. Yeah, this is the same type of material. I don't know if it's all like this. If it is, this is going to be very awesome. Yeah, I gotta quit messing with it and take some serious flakes here in a little bit. All right. Serious, I mean very careful spalling on this stuff, since the nodules aren't that large. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. How much indirect percussion should I use on this? Well, let's try it out first. If it works really, really well, which it probably will, I could do the whole thing with indirect percussion. And I can hear the cries already. No, it's not real napping. No, not that. Looks funny. For those of you who are just tuning in, have never seen this before, before you put the WTF in the comments, this is called indirect percussion. And behind the knee is the technique I came up with. Not the only indirect percussion technique. And if you want to see more of it, I have almost 1,000 videos. Imagine that. Oh, is that why you have numbers in front of yours? Yep. Also, so I can just refer to my videos by number instead of having to type out the whole name when someone wants to know if I've done a video on this or that. In the last video, I think I was trying to figure out some contradictions in my explanations. I think I found one. I was thinking about it the other day, or yesterday. Every day is yesterday to me, so. Thinking about it yesterday or the other day. I already forgot now. Let me think. I think it had to do with controlling the flakes. Controlled overshots in particular. I've said on my other channel, my Patrick Blank channel, that I disagree with the concept of controlled overshots. And one of the reasons is it doesn't mean anything to say it's controlled, because everything is basically controlled in flint napping. And then the other day, or yesterday, or whatever, I said that, or I asked the question, is everything controlled? And I went, nope. So which one is it? Is it controlled or not? Yeah, good question. So I was thinking about that. Is it actually controlled, everything controlled or not? Well, obviously not, right? So I guess I was exaggerating when I said that everything's controlled. So saying controlled overshot doesn't mean anything. That's hyperbole or exaggeration. Yeah, not everything is controlled. Obviously there are accidents that you don't plan on, that are just out of the blue accidents that you didn't even see coming. So it may not be controlled to any extent on some of these flakes. But, you know, people insist on the concept that controlled overshots are, that concept is valid and the technique is valid. And it's an actual planned technique. Or a technology, or however you want to define it. Alright, so I said, okay. Yeah, but let's try to think of a contradiction, or not a contradiction, but a refutation of the hypothesis that overshots can be a controlled technology. Let's think of a way or think of a test for that hypothesis with another type of flake or another type of napping thing that most of the time is considered an oops or an accident. Case in point, like this. When you nap one side too hard and it blows off, takes off the other side. Most of the time when that happens, that's an overshot, right? It's an accident. Now, can you get good at overshooting on purpose? That's the thing. And is it useful? That's the other thing. So I was thinking, is there another instance where a mistake can be considered a advantageous thing, and then you can expand on that and say, you know what, this is actually a controlled accident, or in that case, not an accident, but an actual technology, a defining characteristic of the type of napping that is being done. It's an actual thing. Okay, so yeah, I thought of one example that could be similar along this, using the same logic, and that's end snap, END snap. This kind of thing. Hit the bottom, tip pops off. Now, can that be done on purpose and not by accident? Yeah, I know how to do that on purpose. Hit the base, snap the tip off. Now somebody might say, no, that's not useful at all, man. That is definitely not useful. Okay. What if I wanted to make a scraper or an adze head? Okay. I nap a triangle, but I don't want that end, so I hit this base, pop off the end. And now there's not much trimming to do to make an adze blade or a scraper. Right? I can say that's a controlled end snap if I use it to make my tool. Right? Or is it ridiculous? Well, let's think about it. If I wanted to make an adze blade out of this, would I actually risk hitting the base to snap off the tip, or would I nap the tip off to make the adze blade out of this? Would I risk doing that? Because I know I could snap it off. I know how it's done to snap off the tip, and then all I had to do is trim it down, and there I have a nice little scraper or adze blade. I mean, it can be done. You can do it this way. Nap a triangle, hit the base, pop the tip off, and then just a little bit of trimming, and there you go. You got your adze blade. Why not? To me, that's the same logic as controlled overshot. You're going to call an overshot a controlled phenomenon that actually benefits you. Let's start doing the controlled end snaps in that case. Why not? You're just trying to make trouble, man. You're just being annoying. Yeah. Well, when someone says controlled overshot, to me that's very annoying. Or look at my advantageous overshot. Isn't that cool? Well, what if I start saying, look at my advantageous end snap? Isn't that cool? I didn't want that much of a tip on it. I napped a triangle because that's the default shape. So I'm going to do the end snap to make a scraper or an adze blade. Yeah, I know that's not going to go over very well, and I know it's probably going to irritate people, but I just wanted to put put that into perspective and maybe beat the dead horse a little bit more. If you're new to the channel, you don't know about my disdain for overshots and my annoyance at people who say they can do one intentionally because it was a technology that existed and they want to try to imitate the technology. I think it's foolish. Overshots are a result of thinning. The technology is the thinning. The overshot is just a happenstance. And if it ends up being good, if you plan on doing one, well, it's the same thing as if I plan on doing an end snap. Yeah, I can plan on one. But it would be annoying if I went around and said, look, you know how I created this particular blade, this adze blade? I end snapped it on purpose. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Anyway, let's get to something that's not controversial. Let's see what happens in the comments. Right? Nothing's gonna happen, man, because they're not going to feed your trolling. Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Let's see. I was reviewing the video also, and I noticed that the volume was getting weird on it, and I think the phone. I'm using a phone for my camera. I think it overheats, and when it does, the volume starts to do funny things. It's late enough at night right now that it's not that hot. It's starting to get into the 70s already, but it's after midnight. I don't want to be staying up this late too much longer. Hopefully the weather will change. But yeah, I think that's the problem with the volume. It does weird things. It does weird things when I'm napping, and it makes a little clicking noise, and then I make a snapping noise, and the volume goes up and down according to the intensity of the snapping noise. If it's a loud snap, it tends to mess up the voice volume because it tries to equalize everything, right? Anyway, that's annoying for me when I'm watching my videos. When I'm reviewing a video, I have deleted them based on sound quality alone. I haven't done it in a while, but that's another thing I was looking at yesterday or the other day. Okay, so I've already got it really thin, right? It's not really thin, but I already got it thin, and now I'm going to start trying to thin it down more, and I'm going to run into that kind of a problem. Even though this is extremely high grade material, if I'm not careful, if it's not completely convex, if it's too flat or even concave, I think that's just a flat area, I'm going to run into some problems with the step fracturing. This is kind of like a mid-grade between Obsidian and Dacite. It feels like mahogany Obsidian as far as nappability, which is a good thing. I like mahogany Obsidian. I don't know if I'm going to make a long narrow point out of this, since I like it wide. I mean, I like the way it thinned down. Let's see, I'm talking too much in this video. When you let the subconscious take over too much, sometimes you'll make a mistake that you can't repair. So I gotta pay attention consciously on some of this stuff. And I keep watching those fog knappers, a flake over grind, and the way they prepare perfect blanks and preforms to run those very fine, very thin, very long flakes. And the reason why I watch them is because I want to see the kind of platforms that they're using and how much pressure they're using. Trying to imitate the precision with this kind of setup. Irregular bifaces and just haphazard flaking, most of the time opportunistic. And trying to get the same results as the fog knappers. It's going to be hard, right? But that's what people think they can achieve, because the real ones, some of the real artifacts have very consistent pattern flaking, but they didn't use the techniques, the fog or flake over grind techniques that we have now. They still were able to achieve patterned flaking on some pieces. Now there's another area of controversy. I think pattern flaking is a result of skill, but many people think it's the result of a certain technology developed around a point type. I think it's probably both, right? Some points that are not normally flaked with a sequential flaking are seen with sequential flaking. And some points, or some point styles, are mostly patterned flaked, and it's odd to see one done in a random flaking pattern. So you see both. But the main question is, how do they do the pattern flaking without perfect contours? And obviously it's skill, right? I mean, but yeah. People want to see though how it's done on an irregular surface and with natural tools. I'm using copper right now, and that's kind of like cheating, right? Because copper is easy to maintain. It's very nice to nap with because it's the gold standard when it comes to being able to initiate a flake. It grabs the edge. It's very user-friendly in most cases. How do you do it with natural tools? Lots of practice. That's all I can say. And probably regularizing the edge, making sure your preform is very regular, or at least each area is well prepared, one little step at a time. You might not prepare the whole preform, you may just work on a small area and then drive that perfect flake and move up a little further, work on that area by making it smooth and convex, no step fractures, and then pop off that perfect flake and then move on to the next area. To this day, I haven't seen a preform that looks absolutely beautifully perfect for a run of perfect sequential flakes. Mostly what I see is a fairly irregular edge. A lot of times they're wavy. I mean, they've got a little bit of a wave to the edge where it may be down here and then go up this way, or it could be a twisted, sort of. Not perfectly straight on all sides. And that sort of thing. I see irregularities even with a patterned surface. A surface with a flake pattern. It's not perfect, and yet they managed to get a very consistent pattern. All right. So I am going to explore that. It's easier to do with glass and this kind of stuff than with other materials, so I'll probably be being more careful and trying to get pattern flaking on some of this stuff. Okay, I'll continue on the next segment. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a lot of pressure flaking. You know what that means. I gotta find something to talk about, something to annoy people with. Why do you do that, man? Why do you do that? My son asks me that. He asks me that question. Why do you do that, Dad? I listen to your videos, and why do you go off on tangents? Oh, you listen to my video, or you watch my videos? No, I don't really watch them. I just want to know why you go off on tangents. Because I get bored. Okay? Sorry. I do get bored with some of this stuff. So I gotta entertain myself somehow, or I get unmotivated to do more napping. Did I say that right? Can you get unmotivated? Get discouraged? Or I don't really want to go do napping today because I'm doing some of this boring stuff. That kind of thing. But I can get rid of some of that boredom. By talking about controversial stuff. Yep. I gotta stay away from it sometimes because I do get a lot of different types of nappers watching my videos. Okay, so something else I was thinking about. What if a researcher like an anthropologist or an archaeologist comes up with a theory about a certain artifact, but there's no real experimental archaeology to demonstrate or to illustrate what he thinks happened. All right, this is a scenario. So what he does is he asks around, say, can anybody nap this under the following parameters? It's got to be raw stone. It's got to be, or I'm thinking this is what they did. They did this with they did the point with raw stone. They used, let's say, sheep horn of a certain, and then the point is a certain size preform to start out with, because we see one in the archaeological record. May or may not be the actual preform of the object, but we're saying it is, so we're going to lay out a bunch of parameters. Can anyone nap it in with those parameters. I want to see. And yeah, there's going to be nappers. Yep, me. I can do it. I can do it with those parameters. No problem. In fact, you want to change it up, I can do whatever you want. Really? Yep. You name the parameters, what you think happened, and I can nap it that way. How's that? Oh, that would be great. That means they might have done it that way. Now, is that what it means? I'm asking the question now. Is that the way to go about doing the research? Is that the way to go about doing the experimental archaeology? Come up with what you think happened, and then show that it is a possibility after you lay out the parameters for someone to follow. Is that the way to do the research? Or will that lead to the truth of how it was actually done? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Philosophically, it doesn't really matter how you come up with the theorem or the hypothesis. It doesn't really matter how you come up with it. You can invent it just out of thin air or with a thought experiment. That's not what bugs me about these so-called scientific approaches to different mysteries. What I think should be done is you come up with a hypothesis. We think this point was made in this way. Can anyone show us if it was made in a different way than what we think? Why would you want that? Why would you want someone to show you a different way that it could have been made? That doesn't sound right. Why is that useful? Well, you may have overlooked something. For example, I once saw a study where this archaeologist, very thorough, I thought it was ingenious, right? He went into a site, or he was part of a site that had a very well-preserved debitage assemblage around a hearth, right? And a finished point, I believe. And he was able to refit many of the pieces onto that finished point, or it was a preform or something. It was all together. He spent many, many hours refitting and found that the majority of those flakes, like these, were part of that preform or biface or whatever he was. I can't remember what he found. And he surmised that since the debitage was around the campfire or the hearth instead of in one location, that perhaps and most probably that point was napped by more than one napper. 2 or more nappers napped it around the fire or around the hearth because they were different piles of debitage. And it was a very detailed study, and he went through his methodology and all that. And yeah, that's a good possibility. But what would be another possibility? What is he overlooking? I was thinking to myself, is he overlooking anything? Well, yeah. It's a hearth, right? Apparently it was out in the open, not within a structure. When you have a hearth or a fire out in the open, what happens? The wind shifts. Smoke goes this way, smoke goes that way. I mean, why would you nap around a hearth if you're not taking advantage of the fire or the warmth of the fire or something having to do with the hearth. It was probably smoky. So what the napper did, in my opinion, was just sit in different places around the hearth while the smoke shifted. Or got up, came back after a few minutes, maybe take a drink of water, come back, and the smoke had shifted, so he sat somewhere else. I posed that question, what if it was just him moving because of the smoke? And I heard there was nothing. There was just crickets. Crickets. And then they took the post down. I think that stuff is funny. I think it's hilarious. I mean, it's I shouldn't laugh at all the time spent. That must have been a real challenge to refit all those pieces. And to come up with such an elaborate hypothesis. And trying to guess how many people actually napped it. Try to figure out if there was a difference in style in each debitage pile. It was an in-depth study. And then he forgot or just ignored the possibility that the napper could have just been dodging the smoke. That's what I mean. That's the kind of stuff that I mean. You need to have alternate theories, or you need to have your hypothesis not supported but challenged. You may have overlooked something. Now, do I challenge myself with my theories of how some of this stuff is done? Yeah, I guess I do. I don't claim that this is the way that it was done. I had to develop a different technique because the other techniques that I saw when I first started just didn't get me to where I wanted to go. Because I was looking at artifacts. I wanted to own artifacts. In the very beginning, I wanted to buy artifacts and just own artifacts. But I kept getting beaten on these auctions. They would come in at the last minute and buy these things out from under me. It made me so angry that I couldn't bid fairly on these items. Someone would sneak in and at the last minute outbid me. And yeah, I was motivated by anger. This is just ridiculous. So I just said, you know what? I am going to learn how to make these. Can't be that difficult. I've learned how to make other stuff. Oh, how wrong I was. But anyway, I got to know how to make them. But only after a long, very torturous process of using the methods that everyone else was using and not being able to get the results I was thinking I should be seeing, because it didn't look like the artifacts that I was handling. The flaking that I was doing didn't look, and the finished product didn't look like the artifacts. One of the main differences between modern flaking and old flaking, if I can make that distinction, is that a lot of the old artifacts have very bold flaking. It's not careful and nitpicky. It's not, you don't find a lot of excess flaking in a lot of these older real pieces. You see bold flaking. You see, it looks like it was done quickly. In most cases, I venture to say it. In most cases, it looks like it was done quickly, and with very intentional, very risky flakes. Intentionally risky. Not safe little nitpickety flakes. And not fancy flake patterns in most cases. But just utilitarian, matter of fact, straightforward, very aggressive, very risky flakes. But no one was doing it. No one was napping that way when I First started back in 2009, I think. So I had to develop a indirect percussion technique to get those bold flakes. The pressure that I was using wasn't doing it. I was using mostly raw stone in the beginning because I didn't know how to heat treat, and everyone that was doing heat treating was doing these flake over grind things or exotic type of points, art points and stuff, artistic type points. Yeah, they were using heated Brazilian agate and very fancy rock like that. People weren't really heat treating the normal stuff back then, anyway. 10 years ago. So I had to develop a technique that I could be expedient with, that would look haphazard, that I could also do things quickly with. So I had to develop an indirect percussion technique. And then I started teaching it. And then people were asking me, is this how they actually did it back then? I hope every answer that I've come up with is implying that no, I don't think it was done exactly that way. You never know. Some of the pieces I can't see how they were doing it without indirect percussion, but maybe there is a way to do it without it, and that sort of thing. So yeah, I guess I do challenge myself sometimes, but I am biased toward indirect percussion. I'm going to start doing more pressure flaking. I'm afraid to pressure flake this anymore. It feels like I'm going to snap it. So I'm just going to notch it and see what happens. I would like to do some more bold flaking on the surface, but this is my first piece of Napa. I don't want to mess it up. Yeah, I can get a point out of that one, so I'll save that. I can get small Southwest style arrowheads out of these little pieces. So yeah, I'm going to save a lot of these little chunks. All right, I'm going to notch this with just a steel tool and call it good. Okay. So yeah, I'm just going to do the crunchy thing. I still haven't practiced up on the vertical notching. I used to do a lot of punch notching, but I haven't done many indirect percussion notching videos lately. I've just been crunching these notches in. And a little update, if you haven't seen it yet, check out Edbo23 and his clay dampening or shock dampening technique, where he shows that he can flute a Clovis preform with direct percussion using a piece of clay or a lump of clay stuck to the back of the arrowhead, yeah, but stuck to the back of the preform, and flutes the side that doesn't have the clay on it, right? And the clay keeps it from reverse hinging. Edbo23, EDBO, Echo Delta Bravo Charlie, no, Bravo Oscar. Edbo23. And look for the dampening video. Okay. A little bit too aggressive there, man. Maybe I should use clay to back up the notching. I won't be able to switch sides though. It's funny that sometimes notching is done from one side only on some of these artifacts. So maybe they did. I'm getting too set in my ways. I've got some clay, but I haven't tried the dampening with clay, even though that idea has been around for a while. No one's done any videos on it, as I know of, other than Edbo 23. I'd like to see where that goes. Give some of these Folsom guys some competition. Since I'm probably not going to get into that arena. Fancy fluting. I used to try to do a lot of fluting back in the day when I first started. Ooh, I blew off part of that. I was lucky I didn't blow off more of that barb. Dang it. It came up around here. I pushed off the base of that notch and it came up and took off some of the edge. Yeah, but look how sharp it is, man. It's cool. Yeah, it's kind of sharp, but it's all irregular as far as the outline. It's not advantageous. It's very annoying. Anyway, I don't think I'll get into that arena where I'm doing a lot of fluting. It gives me anxiety. That's my story. It's not fun. Yeah, but you could show people how to do it. Just do it. Just do it. Maybe. I am going to do more art pieces. I'm really starting to get, what do you call it? I'm really starting to get fatigued with all these very narrow, very consensus-driven research papers on the real stuff. I'm getting kind of tired of it all. They're not accommodating the scientific method. They're accommodating people who cannot take criticism. It's getting old. It's getting boring. It's getting ridiculous. So I'm just going to probably bypass a lot of it and just start doing art pieces until I can spend some really good money. And look at the studies myself, look at the data myself, because my goodness, trying to depend on other people to interpret the data in today's environment of accommodating those who cannot take criticism, it is getting old. Okay. See, with art pieces, it doesn't matter. You just do it for the sake of the art itself. And yes, it does cost money to do the research, to do it properly. Well, you shouldn't have been commenting on any of the research, man, because you obviously didn't spend any money in the past. So what are you doing talking about it? Oh, I've spent money on it, believe me. I don't know how many. I think I've spent several $100s buying research papers through these paywalls. I have not spent thousands, but I have spent hundreds. And I'm not going to spend any more money now just to listen to somebody tell me how much support he has for this or support he has for that particular idea. And then the experiment set up according to certain parameters. And yes, it was successful under these parameters. And yes, the consensus is starting to grow in this direction, and we're following the evidence in that direction. And yeah, but what about challenges to your ideas? Well, we don't really look at that kind of stuff because it ruins all of our research. Why would we want to look at something different? Why would we want to look at something that contradicts our research? I mean, then all that money's going to waste. Yes, it has gone to waste. So don't leave yourself open to some of this stuff. Do it yourself before you publish. Well, yeah, we do that. We got trained to do that. We got trained to question ourselves. Yeah, I got that training too. I went to college too, right? The extent of the training to criticize your work goes as far as your personal tolerance. How much are you willing to tolerate in contradiction to what you're doing? It's a subjective thing. It depends on the person. Some people can really take a lot of criticism, but I'm not seeing that very much these days. Anyway, I'll get off of that. Because like I said, it's getting old. We'll see. I'm kind of excited to explore different shapes of points. There's almost every single type of shape of point in the archaeological record, but there are still some points out there. I mean, still some shapes out there that are novel. You know, I'd rather try to come up with something novel than spend a lot of time and money right now on researching something that actually exists. And then have somebody say, no, man, that's not right, because you're out in left field. No one's talking about that. No one's doing it that way. The consensus is blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. I don't know what you would call it. I know that I could do some really nice pattern flaking on this if I set up and make a perfect preform. It probably will be worth it on this material. It's so nice. It is beautiful material. Let's see. Let me see. All right. Sorry for the interruption, but I just wanted to make sure, double check on the name. Zach sent me this. Thank you very much, Zach. This is beautiful stuff. And if I have offended you in any way with my commentary in this video, feel free to slap me in the comments. Please. I love nice comments, but I like the oddball one once in a while, and I like the trolling sometimes. Makes things interesting. So yeah, if you notice something that I missed about this material, by all means tell me. If some of this stuff is not exactly like this material, because this is excellent, right? If some of it is not exactly like this, let me know. I'll start breaking into some of the other nodules. But for the most part, I wanted some of this very opaque or non-translucent black obsidian for a couple of projects that I've got on the back burner. Because I like the look of an extremely jet black arrowhead on an arrow. I think it looks really cool. Alright, so that's it. I guess you can call that an Elko. Although I don't know if these were made in the area where this obsidian is found. Should be making a Stockton, right? So I thin down the stem. Okay, I'm going to call it good. I'm out of time anyway. There you go.